Hello, I'm going to be doing a little walkthrough here. It's a fast-forwarded video of a sketch of Hallstatt in Austria. So I've done the sketch already, and it's really a basic outline sketch. And now I'm putting in a few little highlights in terms of the warmer areas on the buildings. And I always do this first when you're doing these night scenes. It's always good to put in the yellow and basically any of the kind of warmer areas first, because once we go in with the blues, we can use that to sort of cut around the yellows and preserve, whereas if we get the yellow and bits and things afterwards, it can be a little bit trickier. So I find it's better to use a bit of this negative painting to cut around later on. Notice I'm also going a bit further down into the water too, just to add the reflections. Okay. And I'm changing this, all this warmth in here. I've basically mixed in a few different yellows and oranges and things. Naples yellow. I've also mixed in some lemon yellow, bit of yellow ochre. Now, while the ground is wet, and not the ground, but the water, I've started to put in a bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of neutral tint in these areas. Just experimenting around to try to get the yellow to mix in a little bit with the water, because I want this all to have a nice sort of blended wet on wet effect. Okay, and now I'm just going around. The top area has more or less dried for the clock tower, so I'm just going in here and just cutting around with a little flat brush and using some warmer, some cooler colors, purples, playing around, putting in some of the rooftops and areas of darkness in the buildings. And remember, a lot of the light is coming from the center where that tower is, and you're going to have some darkness on the right hand side of the buildings, but on the left hand side of the buildings it's going to be a little bit lighter. So that's why I'm leaving some of the warmth on the left side of those buildings. I'm also trying to work in a tree here on the right, just a really quick tree. And using a number 8 round brush to do that mountain in the background. The sky is a little bit lighter actually than the mountains, but yeah, I'm just trying to get that area behind in the mountains a little bit darker so that it contrasts more with the buildings. And it can be tricky. Because the water always dries off, the watercolors always dries off a little bit lighter at the end. And while that area is wet, I'm just dropping in a few little darker bits and pieces for the rooftops, maybe indicate a window here or there. I always do these little sketches before I do a larger painting, or just for fun. You can get a lot of practice in terms of understanding how the paint reacts on the page. Practicing a lot of these wet and wet watercolor techniques as well, just seeing how it reacts. And you can only do that, you can only understand that if you practice this over and over again. So you may not be creating a painting that you necessarily completely happy with, but you are getting in a lot of practice doing this. And I find that it's something that people don't do enough, and they jump into a big painting without the skills, without the practice, and they get disappointed. So I'm giving that all dry off now, and you can see that sort of sheen's gone off the paper. I really like that tower in the center. I've preserved that light nicely on there, and I'm just taking some time to add in a little bit of detail, a little bit of shadow on that left hand side of the tower, a little bit of detail here for the rooftop as well, to the left hand side, just having a bit of a play around to again indicate that light source coming from the center. And I've actually lost a bit of that light in the middle, but that doesn't matter. And adding in a few bits and pieces, darker areas at the front, maybe some boats, a little bit more detail and darkness on the tower. And just darkening a little bit more around the tower as well, so that I can bring it out. A lot of this is experimentation as well, just altering bits and pieces, and then you can decide what you want to do in the final. If you like this video, check out the playlist on the right. I release new tutorials and art supply reviews each week to help you progress faster in your watercolor journey.